Hey there folks! So today we're going to be carving a little parrot. We're going to be using these stencils. So they're available in 1 inch, 1.5, and 2 inch. And what I mean by that is the size of the block, right? So this is a 1 inch block, meaning 1 inch across this way. The height is going to depend, it's going to vary, so I like to use a 4 inch block for the 1 inch, something a little bit larger for the 1.5, and then this guy, the 2 inch, probably about 6 inches, something like that. And then you can perch them up on a piece of wood like that, like on a little log, or you can, kind of do whatever you like with them. So we can carve them in a 3-dimensional fashion like this. Or you can carve them in 2 dimensions. Let's say that this one is much easier than the 3-dimensional, but today we're going to carve the 3D in a 1 inch block. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So this is the front and back profile of our parrot, and I'm going to choose, since I cut this by hand, it has a bit of an angle, so I'm going to choose the one that has the higher angle forward. So all I do is I set my parrot on there, kind of center it on the piece of wood. Doesn't need to be perfect, but good enough. And so for the front, here's the shape of the beak, the head. I'm just going to pretty much trace almost all the empty spaces. It's right there. Now here's the thing, the wings on the front are not, so there's two lines over here. The ones on the front are the ones more on the outside. You can see that the wings, we've made it so that they fold further, closer together on the back. And that's why you have these lines over here. So on the front, these ones, on the back, this one. Okay, so that's it for the profile on the front. Now let's turn around and do the back side. So obviously on this one we don't do the beak. And those lines up there, that's just for supports to make this whole stencil thing work. And then just trace out the profile. Okay, don't do the beak. And you can, but you're just going to end up carving it off anyway, so your choice. Super simple. Okay, now let's take the side profile. Just match it up to the side here. Put it as close to the top as you can. Give yourself a little bit of room there. And go ahead and trace away. Now this wing right here is a little bit deceiving, but I'll let you know why. I think one of the biggest characteristics of this parrot is going to be this little face separation. You pretty much mess up the shape any way you want, but if you put in the white section of the face on a parrot, immediately it is recognizable as a parrot or some sort of tropical bird. Okay, and these feet, don't be super don't obsess over them, because as you can see I did them kind of in a blocky fashion, but then on the side profile I did them in a different way. So kind of your choice how, when we get to that point, how it is that you want to make them. Okay, look at that. That's pretty neat right there. So I'll tell you that the one thing that we're going to do is I'm going to draw a straight line from here to the top, across the top of the feet. And like that. Okay, good. So this is the section that we're going to work on first. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So for carving, I'm using a flex cut roughing knife, and I've modified the profile a little bit to be a little bit more aggressive. Usually when you get these knives, they're okay, they work, but then after a while you need to sharpen them, and I decided to take advantage of that and change the profile of mine. And as for gloves, I'm using a no-cry glove, and I'm just using a regular grippy glove on my right hand, so it gives me more control over this knife. You can also wrap tape on this knife. I think that's kind of a bastardization of this knife, but anyway, whatever works for you. So one of the first things that we're going to mark on here is going to be this line right here. We're going to kind of take it across the top. So like that. And right here. Yep, there we go. Okay, so two sections that we're going to work on are going to be this and this. So we need to take off all that material. So let's go ahead and start off on the back right here. So this is pretty easy. So we'll just take our knife, and I'm just going to take it to the back of this line right here, and I'm going to match it on the other side. And if you're carving this on a 1.5 inch block, the process is just the same, except that you have more wood. So we're doing it on a 1 inch just for the sake of time. Alright, good. So now let's do this front section right here. So we're going to pretty much try to remove everything beneath the beak up until this line. Try to really get close to that body, because no matter how much you think you take off, the Parrot always ends up a little bit fatter than what these lines are, because we're always kind of shy when it gets to getting close to the line. So, you know, don't try to tell you don't be shy about it, but easier said than done. When you're carving the side profile, the two-dimensional version of this, it's way easier to get close to the line. The three-dimensional, I just don't know what it is. I guess we're too afraid to actually get close to the line, just like I'm doing right here. So try my best. A little bit closer. See? Looks like I'm close on this side, but then when you look across right here, you're actually not. Is that better? That's a little bit better. Okay, let's do the bottom of the beak as well. So right here, and this section kind of curves into the body. So we go knife upward. Of course, gotta take that score line all the way across. How does that look? Okay, and remove some of this. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Let's see what we gotta fix this guy up a little bit back here. Okay, now So before we go any more, we gotta redraw our profile back here. So you can use this stencil, and if hold it up right there, you can kind of see where the lines match up. And then if you bend the stencil downward like that, just kind of flex it a little bit, and kind of redraw this section right here. It's not much that you need to redraw, just a couple points, and then it's enough to kind of get your bearing. So look at that right there. So I see that this head goes right here, and that one goes right here. Probably draw the shoulder on this side too. So this section right here where it changes. So it's going to be. So we'll use that now, and we're going to take off this complicated section right here, the head. Okay, so now we're going to match. We're going to go from this line right here. So we're essentially going to take off all this wood right here, right there and right there, which unfortunately means that we're going to take off all that. So yeah, okay. So now just go like this and kind of roll your knife upward. See, we're going to leave this shoulder right here, but we're going to take it down to those lines. And that's why we drew these lines up here, so we can kind of get as close as we can. Okay, well, that's good. And we kind of round out the top of the head. Good. All right, let's do the same thing on the other side. Okay, you see what I'm doing right there? Let's try to make sure that it's looking as square as possible and symmetrical. It's not super symmetrical on this side. Maybe I took off more on the other side. Okay, so that looks a little better. Okay, I gotta take off a little bit more right here. Okay, so now we're going to use the small face profiles, and I like to put a little bit of sticky tack right down here at the very bottom and kind of just set it on here. Okay, sometimes it sticks, sometimes it doesn't stick, but anyway, you kind of get the hint. Put it on there and trace out as much as you can. So obviously we want the beak as close to the edge as possible, and the flatter that you make this profile, the easier it is to get this guy on here. But I find that just a little bit of a semblance of what it is that you got going on is enough to kind of give your brain an understanding of where the lines actually need to go. So let's see, is that enough? Yeah, you see, so we got the lines on there. Here, at the top going down, beak right here, this one. Okay, let's do the other side. So right here, try to make it the same angle as the other face. Let's make this guy a little bit thicker. So some sticky tack right there. So that's enough to kind of get us going in the right direction. Okay, so, alright, let's see what we can do with this. Okay, so now what I'd like to do is start to take down from here to this beak. So first I'm going to take off all of this wood that's up here. So the top of the, kind of where the beak and the actual head connect. And they may not be perfectly symmetrical, that's perfectly fine. But we'll kind of work on it. Okay, and now I'm going to try to connect from here to here without making too much of a mess. And I'm also going to come down like this. So that line right there. Okay, and from here to here. Just inching closer to that profile right there that we have going on. Okay. This is by far the hardest part of this. And yeah, no pressure at all whatsoever, right? So, okay, good. Now let's try to smoothen this out just a little bit more. Yeah, just as we redraw that whole thing, now we're taking it off once again. Yeah. The good thing is that with that stencil, if you do, kind of take this off a little bit more, you can come back and redraw it some more. So, that's exactly what we're going to do. So, this face profile, even just having it next to you kind of helps. All right, like this, and then the beak kind of comes out that way. Probably not quite like that, but something like that. Right. This guy comes out, and the other side is different, obviously, right? Okay. So let's start to round over the top of that beak. And round out that head a little bit. Okay. Round out the beak a little bit. Okay. So now, I like to take a gouge, so preferably like a number 10. So this is a number 10 millimeter. Sorry, number 9, 10 millimeter. And just kind of take this shoulder off right here. Section. All right. Let's try to shape the head as best we can before we do that face section. So it's looking like a parrot now. Look at that. Slowly but surely. Okay, so now we have the head pretty much where it is that we want it to be. So now I use a 45-degree V-tool, and I use a micro V-tool. You could use a full-size V-tool, that's perfectly fine. All I'm going to do is I'm going to trace that profile right here of this face. Like I said, this is one of the most distinct features of a parrot, along with some other things, right, like the feathers. But you put this on there and you're like, and people kind of realize immediately what it is. There we go. Alright. Now the other side. There we go. So that looks pretty good. Okay, now I'd like to separate the beak from that face a little bit more. Now you can modify it, because you already have that cut in there. I can separate it and I can bring it back, all while maintaining that general shape of that face. Right. So I actually like to keep it out as opposed to recessed. You know, your choice. Good. Okay, so now for this part of the beak, this guy, all I did was I went straight down. So from here to here, or you could try your hand at kind of a curve like that. So let's try to do the curve. Go like this, up and over. There we go, that looks pretty good. Bring it all the way to that back section. Okay. Make sure it doesn't tear out like mine did. Okay, now just round over that beak a little bit without taking off too much material. There we go. So normally on this 1-inch version I don't cut out the eyes because it's just so small that it's kind of hard to get in there. And then you can always come back and, you know, even this out a little bit more, but the rough shape is there. Okay, so now let's work on the body some more. So if you recall, we had the wings that were kind of right here. Right. So let's do that. So now, first thing is we're gonna take this down across the back, and we're gonna match this up to this back here. And down. So this body is a little round, and it's very easy to leave a lot of flat spots on here. So you can see that I left some flat spot right there, but overall I tried to round it out as much as I could. Kind of match up. You'll see what I mean by leaving a parrot that's kind of stocky. No matter what those lines say, like we're very careful not to take off too much material, which usually ends up meaning that we didn't take off enough material. We're so afraid of messing up our carvings. It's kind of hilarious sometimes. Okay, that's looking pretty good on this side, but yeah, there's still too much there. So let's take off some more. Okay, there we go. Yeah. Just make sure it doesn't look like an eagle or a falcon, right? That's the whole point. From here to here. Maybe from there to there. Body, by comparison to the face, is not as hard. Okay, there we go. That's pretty neat. Okay, so now let's go ahead and draw in the wings. So we can get our original stencil, put them right over here, and kind of see where the top of that shoulder is. So right here. You can see that the wing goes there. Okay, so there's the top of the shoulder. And you can see it kind of comes up the back here. Like that. And then this guy will come a little bit. Let's try to make him more towards the front. But ultimately we want it to kind of tuck down here. So right there. And then the wing will end back here. So let's do the same thing on the other side. Guys, I rely on these stencils so much for all these carvings. It's kind of crazy. Okay, so there's the top of the shoulder. Once again, we want to bring it towards the front a little bit more like that. That's the thing, is that these stencils will give you a good two-dimensional picture, but if you're carving in 3 dimensions, it's a little bit trickier. So bring this line up. There we go, and that looks pretty symmetric to me, so. Okay, that looks good. So, just take our V tool, and I like to carve just outside the line. Kind of angle it towards the body, so that you leave the wing on there. The micro V tool for this because I can get really close to that bottom section right there. Otherwise, you can't get as close. Okay, let's do the other side too. There we go. Okay. Neat. So now the only other section right here is going to be this tail. So this tail, I like to just really sink my knife in here and shape it out like that. So score the wood pretty well. Okay. Let's go ahead and take off these corners over here. So you got to kind of make a choice what it is that you're going to do with this bottom section right here. I like to just perch them on a log. You could probably put them on something else, or you could just kind of leave it, like a blank slate and do like I did, made a margarita over here. I was going to put "It's 5 o'clock" somewhere, but that didn't quite fit in this section over here, so I had to settle for just a margarita. Okay, so let's keep working on these wings a little bit. So I like to, there's a spider there. I like to go ahead and score the wings a little bit after I've done them. Ooh, it's windy. Okay. So I think we're working on this guy. Okay, now let's separate this tail. Pretty much as deep as you're comfortable with. Something like that. tuck that tail underneath the wings. And the same with the back of the body. So you want the wings to be over the body. Pay attention to grain direction here because it'll switch on you. Okay. Actually, right here, I'm going to take my larger V-tool that has these big wings, and I'm going to use that to scrape away some of the body. And of course I got to come back and round the wings over just a little bit more, but you can see I don't have to come in there with my knife. Now I can just use the wings of my V-tool. And you know, obviously the deeper you go, the more material you take off. But that tiny micro V-tool won't do this for you. You got to use something larger. Or just rely on your knife. Which can be a little bit of a pain in the butt if you're, you know, trying to go along with the grain. It can be, I think, one of the more difficult cuts to get these, get the knife from two directions to line up just right. Okay, cool. You see that? So there's the one on the left one is with the knife, the right one is with the V-tool, and yeah, big difference. Excellent. So now I can round this over just a little bit. And if you weren't happy with the profile of your parrot head, now you can modify it some. Okay, so let's see what we got going on here. So now it's pretty much just a matter of smoothing things over a little bit. We are almost done. Clean up any little fuzzies that you have over here. I made the mistake of trying to separate the wing from the bottom of the body, and then I ended up with all these fuzzies down here. So try to keep the wing all the way at the bottom, kind of touching this section right here. That way you don't have to get your knife in there and kind of remove it at a very shallow angle. Okay. Oh gosh, still have a corner up here. Let's round over these edges just a little bit. Okay, so now let's work on the feet. So if you choose to do the feet a little bit differently, you're not going to offend me, don't worry. This is just kind of how I decide to do them. So I like to just do a little shape like this. Hopefully you can see what I did there, yeah. And kind of a little blocky. And then I like to bring them down to about right here. So that means I gotta remove all that material. So first, let's score those downward with the knife. Make sure your hand's not in the way. Okay. And now just kind of, very sharp knife. Just cut perpendicular to that grain. Okay. There you go, like that. I'll just kind of cut it off at the front over here. They're not as blocky. Oh gosh, it was really tearing out. Okay, now I just take my V-tool and separate it down the middle as far back as I can, and then give them some toes or some nails or talons, however you want to call it, like that, like that. Perfect. Look at that. So it has a little bit of a crooked beak. We can always come back and fix that. It's not too terrible. Well, like I said, the beak was the hardest part. The rest of this part, the rest of the body wasn't really that terrible. But the head, you kind of got to chase it a little bit. And then of course remove that flat spot at the top of the head. Use the sharp part of your knife to do that. So once you paint that guy up, it'll look pretty good. There you go. Looks pretty good. Not too bad. There you go, guys. I hope you guys enjoy, and I hope this tutorial is helpful. This head is definitely a little bit challenging, but I think it's definitely manageable. I'm eager for you guys to actually carve these guys up, and just for some extra content, I'm going to go ahead and carve up a log down here, but I don't feel like you need to stick around. Okay. So I like to do these little holes in the log right here. Maybe in this one we'll put a little animal or something. Larger. Yeah, let's see. So I'm going to use my V-tool with the big wings, and you almost don't have to worry about grain direction with this guy. Just kind of go at it. These big wings definitely make a big difference. That looks good. Let's do the smaller V-tool for this guy in the middle. Is like a classical carving exercise, you know, when you carve the donut. Looks a little off kilter, doesn't it? That's okay. Nothing in nature is really that perfect. So, good. Alright, let's just round it out a little bit. Let's give our log a little bit of texture. So just kind of come around here, work your way around the that burrow right there, and vary the depth and the length. So towards the end you can go a little bit deeper, towards the middle go a little bit lighter and shorter strokes. Let's see, do we need any more down here? Yeah, maybe one like that. Up here. This. Let's do one right here. Little bit as well, so I take the micro V tool, one in this direction and one in this direction. There we go. And round over any harsh edges that you have over here. Okay, well, there you have it. Sand this down just a little bit to get those pencil marks off, or you could just erase them. And there is a parrot on a log. Hope you guys enjoy it, and good luck making your own, guys. Thanks for watching.